Michael Barnett. I just discovered that he's almost quite old. Now he's touching 90, so we're very honored that he's here with us. And he's English, so this is particularly nice for me because I don't meet many English people anymore. And when I was a young seeker in Osho's ashram, I came to know about Michael Barnett because he had a very big reputation for doing incredible, energetic things with people. And
Not saying what kind.
and also he somehow managed to provoke Osho. He did a few energetic things with Osho. So he had quite a reputation, and of course I looked up to him as a kind of older wise man. And some years ago, I think it must be about 12 years ago now, I was making the book about European masters, and somehow, I don't know how it was, but somehow I was reminded that I'd like to interview Michael, and went to his house near Freiburg, and as you know, he's in the film and in the book. I think his children are also maybe in the film. And now here we are some years later when I've got a new project which I'm kind of starting. It's called Meeting Remarkable People.
That's a copy almost.
It's a crib from
Meeting Remarkable People, yes.
Right. So I had the idea that, over the course of the last 10 years, I've met quite a few what I would call remarkable people, some more or less spiritual. And so I don't know how it's going to work out, but what actually happened is that I was trawling the internet, which I don't do very often, and I came to a talk that Michael had made maybe 2 years ago at the One Spirit Festival, and I was completely touched by this talk.
It was in fact last year. It was last year.
Last year, was it? Okay. So it was last year's talk.
Yeah.
And I was very touched because Michael somehow, it felt to me, was talking about the essence of truth. It was almost as if it was his last ever talk. And he just... anyway, it was deeply touching. This talk was deeply touching for me. But he was talking with a German translator, and they kept passing the microphone backwards and forwards. And I was getting very annoyed about this, and I felt it really spoilt the whole thing. So I got this idea immediately to invite him here and to do the whole thing in English with a good camera. And it felt to me that this talk really deserved a much better presentation somehow. So this was what happened, and that's why Michael's now sitting here. And as we were having coffee, Michael was pointing out that he can't copy his old talks. So today's talk will, of course, be completely spontaneous. Even he doesn't know what he's going to say. So
anything.
So I thought I would provoke him with a kind of question or a kind of setting. In England, we had a famous radio program called Desert Island Discs. And you were going to go on a desert island. Still on, is it?
Apparently, 40 years later, it's still very popular.
Right.
I was just reading the other day about this.
Okay. So the idea of this is that you go off on a desert island and you're allowed to take, 5 records with you. 10, okay. So
I've not seen it for a long time, but I remember this number.
Anyway, so the idea is that, Michael, that you're finding yourself on a desert island because you were shipwrecked with, half a dozen really ardent truth seekers, and you're down to
1, 2, 3, 4.
and you're down to your last liter of water, so you know that you probably can't give many more talks, and so you gather everybody under a palm tree, and you give your kind of the essence of truth, and I think this is what we're inviting today. Yeah.
Well, it's a very sweet description of this imaginative island, but I'm here. And we're not on a desert island, and I have to respond to the situation, as always, as it is right now.
Right.
So John David heard this talk I gave in the One Spirit Festival last year, and was very turned on and touched by it. And he said, could I come and give more or less the same talk again to this company we have here this evening? And the only thing I can remember about that talk, because I've given many since then, is the title. The title was, "The universe is your neighbor, but on the other side of the fence." What I actually said at the time, I have no idea. Now, I do seminars all over the world, although mostly now in Europe, but still sometimes outside Europe. And I've been in many, many countries. And I may give in a weekend seminar 3 talks, 1 talk, or no talks until the end, when I always ask for questions and I answer, so there's always at least 1 talk. So I don't talk because I ought to talk, or that people expect me to talk. I talk when talks come. I'm in seminars a kind of empty space. I have no program. I never know when I go into the room with anything between 40 and 70, 80 people. I never know what I'm going to do, and I never know what I'm going to say. It just emerges from the situation. So here's a new situation, a familiar face or two here, otherwise you're all new for me. And not only the way you look is new for me, the way that you are is new for me, because I don't so much look at people as feel them and experience their energy. So sometimes it reminds me that in the break I would say, who was that lady who was standing over on the right at the back? I don't know her. And then my assistant would say, you mean the one in the green jumper? I said, I've got no idea what jumper she was wearing. The one with the black hair, I have no idea what colour hair was. Tall? I can't remember. So I don't really pick up so much on tangible things like that. I pick up on what's going on energetically in people, which is quite different from what's going on in their minds and their bodies. Now, my whole work and connection with other people is based on resonance. So I begin by telling you an old story. When I was around 14 or 15 years old, at school, as we all were, every week we had one music lesson. And the teacher of that lesson was not the least bit interested in teaching. He would come in and say, write down a composer, a piece of music, this, that, and the other, beginning with B or C or B and K. Then he would sit on his desk and read. So it was like a holiday time. We would just sit around in the classroom and pass the time. Then one day he came in with some things. 6 or 7 of the same thing. and he opened his desk, which used to be the way the teachers had a desk in the center and with a lid, and he put one of these things in the desk. Then he went to a cupboard and opened the cupboard, and he put one of these things in the cupboard. And then he went to the windowsill, and he put one of these things on the windowsill. Then he went to the front row and put one of these things in a boy's pocket. And so he put these 5 or 6 things around. And the last thing that he had, he hit on the desk, and it went boom. It was a tuning fork. And then all the other tuning forks that he had placed the way I've described also went That's the process of resonance. When this happened, I began to sweat. I began to tremble. My teeth started to chatter. And my hair, which I had a lot of in those days, I was known as the hair, stood up on end. And I trembled. And I had no idea why for another 25 years. The process of resonance. And that's the basis of my work when I travel around and do my seminars. But whatever is going on in me can be awoken through resonance in other people without doing anything or saying anything. When I first went to Pune, that was in 1974, when he was Bhagwan, not Osho. The morning I arrived, or the night I arrived, I met on the plane somebody that I knew from my groups in England that I'd been doing. I used to do encounter groups in England. And she took me to where she was living, and there was a lot of other people there, 6 or 7 other people there, all of whom were English people who I knew. And then in the morning, I went to the morning talk and met him for the first time. And then at that time, there were probably in Pune no more than 100, 200 people. So it was very early days. And this man came in and walked up onto a platform, not a high one like he had later, and sat down. And I looked at him and I said, this man has something that I haven't got, but I want. Just by looking at him, that he was resonating, and something in me, in the way I'm describing, resonated with him. When he finished his talk, he walked down the steps, and I was sitting somewhere to the right there, and he walked over to me and said, "I've been waiting for you. I'm glad you have come." And I thought, well, that's nice. He greets everybody who comes like this. But he never did before, and he never did again. So that was his resonance with me. He recognized something in me, and that was shown by my time there with him, that he knew that I had a future in the work that he was doing, which turned out to be true. So it can happen in my seminars that when 90% of the people who come to my seminars have been to other seminars before, maybe over the last 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, they come and resonate again and again and again. So then if there's a few new people, which there always are, sometimes there's more than a few people, maybe there's a dozen people, as there was just last week when I was doing a group. There were 15 new people in a group of 45. And that was a little bit different then. But normally the new people don't just resonate with me to connect, to be in the same space. They resonate with all the other people who are there in the group, who have been with me before, and are also able now to tune in and join me in that space. Now, what is that space? Well, we all are different people here and everywhere, and we all are affected individually by the way we see life and by our compatriots, our families, our friends, where we work, who we're with. And all these individuals are meeting and saying, yes, yes, I like this person, I feel connected to this person. So resonance still happens with certain people, and with these people, we have no resonance because somehow there's something not attractive about them, or there is no resonance, and so they're there, but we don't really connect with them. So we pick people to resonate with that we feel in tune with, especially if we meet somebody and get married or have a very close relationship with, then the resonance is great, and so it fits. So the particular way that people are vibrating, meet other people who are vibrating in the same way, and feel, aha, I like to be with this person, I feel at home with this person, I feel in tune with this person, and friendships develop, love affairs develop, marriages happen, and so on. But the vibration that is individual comes out of a vibration which is universal. So behind all our individual vibrations, which preclude and lead to our choices of who to be with in our lives, behind all this beautiful individuality, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, behind this beautiful individuality, there is a source vibration which people are given when they're born, which is in them when they're born, and which is the basis of the vibration that develops in them as a personal vibration. And my work is to take people back from that personal vibration to the universal vibration. And when you're in the universal vibration, you find that the inner vibration is in everybody, even in addition to the personal vibration, which I can feel in each one of you, behind that, and alongside that, is the universal vibration. And when you're in that, you are everywhere and everybody. Not as they are in life, with their particular individual vibrations, but behind it. And that universal vibration is a source of all life, not only human beings, but everything that exists. And out of that basic vibration, which is universal, particular vibrations develop according to people's choices and history and experience and involvement and relationships and so on. So to go back to where I began, the title of this talk, which impressed JD so much, was, I repeat, the universe is your neighbor, as I'm saying, but on the other side of the fence. The fence is your personal privacy, belief systems, choices, selections, lifestyle, entertainments, love affairs, the clothes you wear, the places you go, the movies you like, the books you read, the attitudes you have towards people, This is all coming from personal vibration. And I'm not saying that it's possible to avoid that. It's bound to be happening. It's necessary to happen for the world to turn, and with the people in it. But beyond that and alongside that, there is this universal vibration. Now, when people find this, as they do a lot in my groups, often when they first find it, they say to me at the end of the group, it felt like coming home. And I think that's a strange thing to say, since they've never been there. But they must have been there, because they say home. Not, I found an extraordinary space up in the universe where everything was just beautiful and perfect, and now I've lost it. They say over and over and over again, it felt like coming home. So that means that this space that I work from and share is already in you, but neglected, not lived, not embraced, not even known until it is known. And when you're in that place, and when a group of people I'm with in that place, there falls inevitably a tremendous silence and stillness. And sometimes I go into a group and I sit there, and this space falls in, and almost all the people who have been with me before, they fall in, and an hour will pass without anything happening whatsoever except that. Nobody is impatient. Nobody's saying, okay, when are we going to get up and dance or do something? When are we going to have a structure? When are we going to have something? The space takes people into itself and finds, like the tuning forks, in each person, a place in them which is precisely equal to the energy that is pervading them. So that is the basis of what I do when I do my seminars. And I still do, even though I'm no youngster, I still do, 30 to 35 seminars every year. And until recently, I was traveling to Russia, Australia, Brazil, Canada, America, South Africa, places like this. And I always felt, before I started to travel, that this place that I work in and with is everywhere. Doesn't matter which country it is, doesn't matter what the background is, doesn't matter what the politics are, doesn't matter what the religions are, doesn't matter what the viewpoints are, doesn't matter about pride in one's country and nationality and so on, that this space works everywhere in the world because it's universal and beyond nationality, beyond the place where you're born or the place you've adopted, beyond everything that is identified with as oneself. Who I am, what I like, who I'm with, what I prefer, how I entertain myself, what I like to do. Nothing. That is still there. I mean, the basic formula for the Wild Goose Company, why the Wild Goose Company? I do this, I divert from my talks, sorry. But I hope I can come back. About 30 years ago, I was doing a seminar in Denmark. I used to go there regularly. I still go there twice a year, but I used to go more regularly. And the groups would be all around Denmark in different places where we could find somewhere to hold it. And one day during the morning break, I went to the sea, because Denmark's surrounded by sea, and this group place was right by the sea. So I went by the sea just to get some fresh air, to be with the water, to be with the sea. And there were two wild geese on the beach. As I approached the beach, there was these two big wild geese. And then the wild geese saw me and took off. I was totally shaken. And I went back to my room just around the corner, and I lay there, and a voice came and said, Michael, you have to start something called the Wild Goose Company. And then came a little poem, which I know from Zen. The wild geese sweep across the sky, leaving no trace. The wild goose sweeps across the sky, leaving no trace. And then the Wild Goose Company started. That was in 1984. Leaving no trace. Sweeps across the sky, leaving no trace. That leaving no trace is the emptiness and stillness and silence and vibration of the universe that I'm talking about. But never mind all the activity, never mind all the hullabaloo, never mind all the terrible things and also the beautiful things going on in the world. Behind all that, nothing is left but emptiness. But an emptiness which is a potent vibration which makes you feel more alive than you've ever felt in your life. Because you're one with the timeless vibration of life. So I don't do my groups because I feel I ought to. I do my groups because I have to. And I do my work because I have no choice. And that's what I'm here for, as long as I'm here. And so time becomes, in a way, irrelevant. And that's why, at my age, I can still go around and do 30 groups a year. And be able to do them and travel and stay in hotels and strange places and survive, because I'm in the hands of something beyond this person, Michael Barnett, and his limitations, which of course I do have, but as well as my limitations, I have also limitless possibilities. And in that space, which is beyond oneself, as one takes oneself to be, there is nobody in particular. And so, as I see it, without knowing it, the one who dies when you die, dies, but the part of you that is with the universal energy does not. Because you're outside time. You're for sure beyond time because you're in the space I'm talking about. It's boom, 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 and each instant is the same. And that may sound terribly boring, that you sit there for an hour and each instant is like every other instant during that hour. There's no change at all, and it's bliss and joy and perfection, despite the fact that nothing is happening except you are vibrating with the universe. Now, for me, what I've said up to now is the most beautiful thing that can happen to a human being, but that's not true for so many people. I mean, I would say that in my time doing seminars for the last 50 years or so, that I've worked with probably in the world at least 100,000 people. But the number of people who have taken it on is a small percentage of that number. Because people say, that's interesting, but in the meantime, I've got to cook lunch. And I've got to go to this meeting, and I have to meet my friends, and I want to do this, and see this movie, and so it's by the side. And that's why the talk is, the universe, which I've been talking about, is your neighbor, but on the other side of the fence. Within the fence, it's how you are, what you've chosen to be the important in your life, to make important in your life. Which can be very beautiful, and some people have terrific lives and have a great enjoyment and so on, if not constantly, at least often. And so that feels enough, and well enough, and what you're here for. That's what I'm here for, is to live this life that I'm constructing daily, according to my own choices. You know, so what's the point in going beyond that? Because I'm content, and I'm not against that at all. I don't think people have a duty to do to find what I'm describing to you all, and when you find it, to make it the most important thing in your life. I don't say that. I don't, in a way, do anything to, in a way, even to coax people into this. I just show and hope you to experience what is possible, and for you to then decide how important you make it, or whether you say, very interesting, a word I hate, interesting. The mind says very interesting, you know. The heart says, wow. The heart says, wow. And the system says, yes.
So you talked about resonance. You gave us this image of the boring old music class with the tuning forks. And just now you were saying that you have to do this, which means you have to travel around and share with people. So in a way you're setting these tuning forks. So would you like to say something about the value of the person who's setting the tuning forks?
The value of?
Of the person who is setting the tuning forks. The value of, for example, Osho, when you came to him in India many years ago, when perhaps you weren't resonating so strongly with home in those days, and that meeting perhaps kind of set you on a resonance. And clearly when you travel around, you're saying how a lot of familiar students come back to sit with you and be with you. So that would suggest there's some special value in the way you are setting the tuning forks. Would you like to respond to that a bit?
Well, you've said it, haven't you?
I want you to say it, because I'm
But
sure you can say
already.
it more sweetly than I was saying it. No.
Well, I don't really, after all these years and meeting all these people, really expect people to adopt what I'm pointing to. I don't. it's just a line running through human society and human world and the earth activity as a possibility. When I say that I can't stop and this is what I have to do, it's because I know that it was always my destiny to do this. When I was 8 years old, my father asked my older brother David and me, as I don't know whether fathers still do it, I didn't do it with my kids. What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, some laughs, so obviously you're familiar with this. And my brother, who was the older, he answered. And then my father, I'm 8 years old, he said, what do you want to do when you grow up? My 8-year-old answer was, I want to be like Moses and take the people to the promised land. 8. Then he said, you mean the English people? And I said, no, only John David. I said, no. He said, do you mean the Jewish people? Because my father came from a Jewish tradition, which I didn't follow myself. I said, no. He said, who? I said, the Germans. And that was now I live in Germany, I have a German wife, I have four German children, 5 German children. I've lost count. I've lived half my life in Germany. I like to live in Germany. I'm at home in Germany. When I was doing groups in London, from nowhere, Germans started to come to my encounter groups. I had no connection with Germany, but they simply came from Germany to me, and then they invited me to go to Germany, and I started doing groups in Germany. This was before I went to Bhagwan. And then, just figure these are just some examples. Then, at some point in my life, a voice came and said, one day you will marry a German countess. Countess. Interesting. Well, I did. Didn't marry. I didn't marry, but I have my oldest daughter is a child of a German Gräfin. And this news that it would happen to me came 20 years before it happened. Oh dear. This snivelling is really completely verboten to me. And then another example is, I was told, well, you will have a lot of girlfriends, which I've had, but you will finish up, this was 25 years ago, you will finish up with somebody whose name is Suzanne, and my 25 years long marriage with Mishka, her name is Suzanne. And things like this happened to me continuously through my life, that I would be told what was going to happen later. Now, where's time in that? The unpredictable future, the unknown future was already being mapped out for me before it happened. And that suggests that, as one of my personal books is concerned, time is an illusion. That the past and the present and the future are all together in this very moment. Now, in a way that might seem inconceivable, but that doesn't make it untrue. The mind can't grasp it. Oh, come on, please don't cough. I mean, nothing ruins, to me, the space that I'm trying to bring people into than coughing and snorting. I don't allow it in my groups. If people cough, they have to go out. But here, I don't have that power, so I just have to comment. It's like tearing the empty space of the universe. So I offer this around, as I said, all over the world to thousands of people, and some people take it on, and most people do not. They say, aha, yeah, we had a good time. Often people, the group over the years in order to come and say, that was the most beautiful experience I've ever had in my life, and then I don't see them again. Now you see, at first I used to think, well, how can that happen? And they say it's the most beautiful experience they've had in their life, and then they disappear. But now I'm older and more mature. I can say, yeah, well, so what? So they've had many beautiful experiences. They say that was they have maybe a relationship with a woman or a man, and they say that was the most beautiful, and then they go off with somebody else later on, and they marry somebody else. So in a way, it doesn't mean because you have a beautiful experience that you want to make it the most important thing in your life. But for me, when I had this experience, it was the most beautiful thing in my life, and I said, that's what I want. Instead of just a momentary satori, which I was beginning to have before I went to Osho, it was flashing through a state of emptiness and openness and fullness. Then I said, for me, that was the most important thing. That's the focus of my life from now on. But I still went on having all sorts of beautiful worldly experiences too. Still having relationships, still having great times, still going to parties, still dancing, still doing many other things. Not, I'm closing shop now, I'm going to become a monk. I am not a monk. I don't expect my students to be anything like that at all. They're in the world, they're having great times, they have families, they have jobs, they have interests, they have connections. But the thing is, for instance, John David was saying that he remembers when I had my 80th birthday that we had a big party, 200 or 300 people came because, of course, I had many connections. And people were coming to that and meeting who had not seen each other for 20 or 30 years. People from my early days who I hadn't been to groups for ages and ages, they said, this we will go to. And people were meeting, and when they met, it was as if there was no time in between. Not, what have you been doing? Have you got children now? What job are you doing now? None of that. It's hi. I haven't seen them for 25 years. Hi. Embrace, nothing to be said. Because when people meet in this timeless space, then when they meet again, it's back in the timeless space. And that happens all the time. So I'm talking about another world, not instead of this world. In some spiritual areas, of course, you have to drop everything, you have to become a monk, you have to chant, and you have to be serious, and you have to meditate day after day. I never meditate. Meditation is something you do to get somewhere, and I don't anymore do anything to get anywhere. But I sometimes sit in a meditative space for an hour or more, even in my groups with people there. But I'm not meditating like this. I'm just in stillness and silence and oneness, and that is contagious, and it spreads out to other people, and they sit with me in stillness and silence. And then I start into some activity, some meditation, some movement, some playing around, some jokes, some chat, So it's not something that I say, that's all it is. That's the peak. It is the peak, but you don't have to stay on the peak. When people go to the top of Everest, they don't build a house and make a school. They get there and they come down and they join the world again. And I say, fine, get enlightened, realize the oneness of everything, find that which is beyond all this and that, neither this nor that. Taste it, Know it's part of you. Know that it's something that you are also able to be with and be, and then get on with your life. But what you have tasted and found will influence the way you get on with your life, that's for sure. It's not like either or. When I'm in this space, I'm feeling fantastic. When I'm in the world, I'm just the same person as I was. They merge together. The influence of the space that you've tasted and spent time in spreads in and infiltrates into the way that you live. They come together. The symbol of the Wagwa's company is X10. People have necklaces with it. X10. The 1 stands for the individual life. The 0 stands for the space I'm talking about, because it's nothing. And the X stands for living, bringing the two together in your life. So I can talk here, say funny things and joke, and at the same time, as I'm doing it, I'm in that space that I call the 0. So it's not a choice that you have to make at all. It's an embellishment of the daily life with something that is total and complete and whole and universal.
So somehow all the things you're saying I can easily recognize, because my life, if I look back, has also been a series of kind of unfoldings. Meant to be, kind of like meant to be. Even maybe a parking space can just be there when I need a parking space. Simple things like that, and much more complicated things. For example, you met one of my 3-year-old daughters. Not many people have 3-year-old daughters when they're 74. And something like 10 years ago, I got an email saying, go to this town in Ukraine and give a meeting. I went to the town in Ukraine.
Which town?
Kharkov. It's the old capital.
I go to Ukraine every year.
It's the old capital of Russia, actually.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went to this town, and on the first evening there were quite a few people, about 40 people, and I immediately connected with a few people more strongly than everybody, and in particular one woman, and she's the mother of these 2 little girls.
Is she here?
No, she's not here. She's looking after the little girls.
I will see her later. Huh?
You'll see her later. But anyway, she clearly came into my life in a kind of destiny. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. She's 42 years younger than me, and why she would even be interested to hang out with, somebody 42 years older. And we got on so well for the first years.
My wife is 35 years younger than me.
Well, mine's 42. Anyway, it's almost inconceivable that this story could happen, yeah? So it seems to me that it was a have to be for some reason, yeah? I don't know what the reason, except that...
Well, we call it destiny.
Yeah, destiny.
I call it destiny,
yeah.
And it's very real for me, destiny.
Yeah.
Destiny means that wherever you arrive was there from the very beginning.
And what's beautiful about understanding this destiny is, in a way, it took away any kind of fear that I might have had about my life. Because I could just know that whatever's going to happen is meant to happen, and I don't have any choice, really. So why not just relax and let it happen? So then this amazing suffering that I kind of feel happening all around me, I don't really understand, actually. I can't really understand. Because I don't live like that. I haven't lived like that my whole life.
People can't get what they want in life, and then that makes them really all these things miserable. And if you let things happen, then you have nothing to compare what happens with. Because you wanted something else, and you don't get that, you get something else, which is not pleasant, where you wanted something pleasant. But if you're open to whatever happens, then there's no disappointment.
Yeah, and it appears as if exactly the right things then happen. So this enormous kind of wanting or enormous desiring that most people live their lives in, if you just stop it and relax, everything that you probably desired comes to you anyway.
Well, maybe not what you desire, but what you should have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
What you're supposed to get.
yeah.
You know, I have this picture of a woman up there beyond the world throwing mud pies, and she's dead accurate. Whatever she throws and wherever she hits, that's what you're meant to have. Even if you don't like it and prefer something else and feel sad about it and angry about what happens, that's for you to deal with your anger and whatever else is between you and what is given to you. Just to say yes to everything that happens. Not necessarily to agree with it, but to say, yes, well, I have to deal with this now. This is what I'm given to deal with.
Yes, I mean, of course, in my own experience, there's been many very strong, even difficult, even horrible things that I had to deal with.
Yeah.
It wasn't all nice.
Yeah.
It wasn't all lovely.
But if you can say yes to that, then you get a good chance to say yes to the other pole when it comes. Ah, yes. Not just yes, but ah, yes.
I think I would like to ask you a particular question because something where I'm still hooked is this moment when somebody has experienced home.
Home. Yeah.
Home. And you've described it, absolutely beautifully. And you've described it so beautifully that it's hard to imagine why anybody wouldn't make it their main priority. And what happens to me very often is I watch somebody who's tasted even a big taste of that, turn around and walk away. And actually I can't understand it really.
Because they think they're going to lose their life.
They are going to lose
Because I say the two together, but of course when you first get it, the two do not go together. You have to go from what I call the one to the zero, and the zero takes over from the one in your relationship with it, but then you realize that the zero still includes the one where you came from, but it doesn't happen immediately. The zero never adds to the one. The zero thrusts the one out of the way, adds to in order to find space in you for the zero to reside. As long as there's a one in there, as long as the ego is in there, there is no space for what I'm talking about. So you have to let go of the one to find the zero, but then you realize that the zero includes the one. It's like you throw a stone into the water and the ripples go, right? And the ripples go. And on the last ripple, you're out in the free water, But then you turn around and you're saying, but the ripples are still there, so I can come back from there and come back to where the ripples are, which is your life.
So
But it doesn't happen in a combination, not at first. You have to be ready to give up your life to find that which is beyond your life. And then when you do that, and if you don't do that, then you can't get it. Then you realize, but still I haven't lost what I came from. The one includes also everything that makes the one up the one, including yourself as you were before.
Right. But somehow for many, many people, I would say probably for a majority of people who have, I could say, sincerely touched from home, they still get into a kind of terror with this reality of having to lose what they think is me.
That's it. That's what my response was.
Like
they're afraid to do. Yes, they are.
Terror.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Everything is familiar. What about my life? What about my family? What about my job? What about my interests? What about all the things I love to do? I mean, this beautiful space that I've tasted compared to that, which has been with me now for many years, and this is now here maybe at first in just an instant.
Because you were saying that something like 100,000 people have come to your meetings.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask you, but if I would ask you, probably you can count the number of people who are living constantly in that priority of home on two hands.
Probably, maybe 3 hands.
3 hands. So
4 hands. Yeah.
Three or four hands.
But still,
that means 20 people.
A few hundred people who keep coming to get another taste.
Reminder.
Yeah, a reminder. Yeah. Or reinforcement, because I think that space, I mean, when I'm in my groups, I see that people are in an enlightened space. Many of the people in my groups are in an enlightened space during the group. But for them, they are not in the enlightened space. I see they are in it, but they are not in what they're in. They are still in the world. They're still in themselves, having a taste of this. But I see that actually more than that is happening, that actually if they were to stay in this space that I see them in, they would be in the same space as me. But they say, this is something I'm tasting, whereas it has to be something that you are, or can be, when you want. At any point, I can
So is
get to
this
that
some
space.
kind of strange destiny at work? That
Maybe.
in a way there's a limit to
Maybe.
what you can do about it.
Maybe.
That you need to maybe come back many times.
Yes, maybe. Yes, maybe. I'm reminded of a story that Bhagwan told about a guy who had been meditating for years and years, and then he got in touch with somebody in the divine area and said, how many more lives do I have to live before I get enlightened? And he was told, the number of branches on that tree behind you. He said, what? But there's 100 branches there. I've got to wait another 100 lives. And then there was another young guy who was also a seeker, and he said, yeah. He said, and the divine guy said, do you want to know about yourself? He said, well, not really interested. I'm enjoying being on the path. But how many lives? He said, well, the number of leaves on that tree. He said, only those? Great. See, attitude, see? Only those? Only 200? My God, then I'll be enlightened. Fantastic. See? So if you're impatient like that, then it doesn't work. You know? If you're greedy, it doesn't work. You have to have the right relationship with it and see that is the boss. You cannot tell that space what to do. You have to surrender to that space. You have to open yourself to that space. You have to lose yourself in that space. And you have to make it, when it happens, the most important thing in the world. When I had my first satori, I said, this is the most important thing in my life. But I didn't go and join a monastery, and I didn't even cease before Osho. I didn't go to see Bhagwan. I didn't do anything. I just kept doing what I was doing. But the line between what I tasted and me stayed. I wasn't there, but the line between me and that space I maintained, I think, throughout. From the first moment, it tasted it. That was the ladder I was going to climb to that place. Although I didn't know how to get there, but I kept it in mind. Mm-hmm. That's how it was for me. So maybe some of our visitors or audience also, you've been asking questions, would like to ask a question? Or you have something more?
Well, there's 2 questions which actually fit together.
Mm-hmm.
And fit to your talk beautifully. And they were both asked before they met you, so I find it's kind of destiny working very nicely. So I could read them. Maybe I'll read them both. So how to bring the mind to silence, and which influence has silence on our energy system?
Well, I can't answer two questions together. First question,
Okay.
how to bring the mind to silence?
Okay, yeah.
Well, I can only tell you how I did it. During a group in Germany, would have been in about 1978 when I was still a sannyasin, I think, or I can't remember exactly when. I was taking a walk on my own, and again I saw wild geese flying across the sky, and then this thought, the greatest thought there is, came to me. I got a first-class degree at Cambridge University. I say that to tell you that my mind was a good mind and very active. And what came to me at that point was, you have a great mind, but your mind, this is to me, will not bring you what you want in this life, however smart it is. And from that moment, it was over. On that moment, I'm not saying I don't think, but I can turn away from thinking anytime. If I ever think anything, oh no, stop, and I just turn away and it's gone. I don't even know what, 10 seconds later, I don't know what I was thinking about at all, no idea. 2 seconds later, I don't. I simply turn away from it because it's clear to me that this space, for example, which I have found, which I hadn't found at that time, that this space is empty of mind activity. And so I can't get to that space through this process of mind. So from then, the power of my mind was over. That the primacy of my mind, which has been true up to this, was simply no longer the case. It was put in the margins, and I can just turn away and finish. I don't know what I was thinking anymore. And this still happens to me. I can stop my thinking, just turn away from my thinking, because I've already demoted it to unimportance compared to what else is there when my mind is not working.
And the other one was, which influence has silence on our energy system?
It makes it whole. There's nothing interfering. When we're doing something, then we use certain energies in us. If you don't do anything, if you're just still and silent, then all the energy gathers together because you're not using any part of it to achieve something, to get somewhere. So it just falls into itself. When it's complete, you may find when that happens, you have body pains, for example, that you're not clear there, but that's something that can be in silence too. Just it's not worked itself out yet, or it's not able to work itself out because something is damaged in you. But if something is damaged in you, physically, for example, then it's not going to, you go into silence, it's not going to heal what's damaged inside you. It doesn't mean you go around in hospitals, everybody be silent and be quiet and you'll all be cured. That's not going to happen, because the activity that is brought into the illness or whatever you have wrong with you, it's not going to simply vanish just like that. But it will be, but maybe if you could stay in that space and you could then find a way to let that place I'm talking about, in which there is no illness, permeate the system, then maybe you could. I mean, there are stories of masters going into that emptiness and disappearing and coming back again, even. So the whole body disappearing and then reappearing again. How true those stories are, I don't know, but there are stories of people simply disappearing into space because they totally surrender themselves to the space, but at the same time they haven't gone yet, and they can manifest their bodies again. There are stories of that. How valid they are, I don't know. But if it happens to me, I'll let you know.
So I think there are lots of people who have some question, yeah? Do we have a microphone? Yes. So if you wanted to ask a question, then indicate that you'd like the microphone, yeah? Anybody want to ask a question?
Yes. My question is, you talked about this space is always there, kind of maybe underneath the personal vibration. So my question is how to reach there, how to maybe see beyond the personal, or how to discriminate, how to...
You can't reach there because it's not on the map. You have to make yourself available to it, then it will maybe take you in its arms. It's not on the map. All the attempts to get there through meditation, techniques and so on, will give you, through the work that you do in meditation, will give you a taste, but you cannot land in that place because it's not on the map. You have to invite it in, you have to wait for it to come, as I did, and then say, yes, that's what I want. I mean, what you're doing in life can make you more ready, more available. So all we can do is to make ourselves more available for that place to choose us and to feel, there's a person who's open enough for me to enter and give them a taste of myself. Myself being the space I'm talking about, not myself. Self of the space. It's not on the map. Nothing, no steps will ever get you to reach there. They will make you, the steps you can make is to make yourself more available, closer to the vibration, so the gap is less and less. And then there's a jump. But the jump comes from the other side. Not from you, because if you jump, you'll jump in the wrong direction. Because you want something. And it's not something you can get through desire. But it's possible for you, I can see. I can see who can manage it, who can't. I don't usually say so because I don't want to say you can't to anybody. Yeah, but it's actually visible. It's visible. Yes.
Wait a sec. I don't know, it is a feeling or the idea that I connect with silence. My mind can be silence, but immediately when there is a lot of stress, I have to do a lot in the outside world, then I have the feeling that I'm immediately in all the identifications. Old identifications, and then I know it all happens, it all takes place in the silence, but the fighting is
silence,
going in.
Silence on itself is not so useful. Silence that I am describing, it happens often for me and in my seminars, is an expression of being in a certain place inside you. The silence is a spin-off from a certain place, but silence on its own is not enough. I remember somebody asking me this question in where this the groups that John David was talking about that I go to every year. Where I go to in One Spirit Festival. It used to be called
Rainbow
Festival in Baden-Baden. Right. And I was at the Rainbow in Baden-Baden. And a lady, and I had questions like I'm having now, and there were 300 or 400 people in the group listening in the audience. And one lady said, I can silence my mind without much trouble, but then I don't feel I'm anywhere. I don't know how to go on and just hold the silent mind. And I thought, I said, Michael, to myself, where do you go when the silence goes? I said, the silence is a factor of being in a certain energy space. That I'm in a certain energy space when I'm in the silence. So silence is not the main thing, it's the energy space that includes the silence. So silence on its own can immediately, it has no roots of its own. Mm-hmm. So as soon as there's activity around you, you lose the silence. It's very hard to be silent when in this world where there's hardly any silence, anytime, anywhere. The desert maybe, So that's it. You have to find the space which includes the silence and not just the silence on its own.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
You put your hand or indicate and you'll get it. So I'm going to ask another question on behalf of some people in this room who are not asking this question.
But you know they have them, huh?
But this would be a question they could ask. And if they're not asking it, this would be a question a lot of other people could ask. So we've already discussed that people get a glimpse, they get a taste of what they call home. And it can even go on for some days. And so it's not just a very small thing, it's actually quite a big thing. Maybe they can't even function for a few days physically, but inside feel this tremendous satisfaction, peace, home. And so they continue. And of course the ones that I'm talking about are somehow in a connection with John David. So I'm somehow acting as a teacher to remind them, I would say. I think probably I would pick reminding as my main function, reminding. And then somehow they decide to turn their back on something that's touched them so deeply. And this isn't so easy because one part is wanting to go back into the eoic game, and the other part is still remembering this home. So it's not an easy decision. It's not an easy struggle to resolve. Very often I experienced then that they make the teacher, make the reminder wrong. And that releases them somehow. That releases them, because if this reminding is wrong, then who cares, you know? And then we can just easily go back. Can you maybe address what I'm... Because I often feel deeply sad about this, because of course being the reminder, there's nothing personal.
Well, Buddha said the most important help after the master, the spiritual teacher, is the Sangha. The Sangha is the collection of students or followers or disciples. Because, as what happens in my groups, as I've already described this evening, about how it becomes infectious and the people I work with infect the people who are new. But the energy field in my groups and the energy field in my home, energy field of wild geese, activators, is a Sangha. And when people are in it, when I go into a seminar, almost always instantly, everybody's already sitting like plonk. Never mind me coming in and bringing them into the plonk. They're already into the plonk. And I just join them. Because all the groups that they've done with me and whatever else they may have also done to contribute collects there, not just this person who's just come back from a retreat or that person there, that the part of them, part of all of them that has been in that place joins together. So everybody in the room is contributing to everybody else. When I first was working, that it wouldn't happen till I went in the room. But now it happens, I walk into the room and I think, well, there's nothing to be done. They're all in the space. You know, I'll join them, I'll just sit here and join them. But then I intensify it, and then when I intensify it, they intensify me in that state of being the teacher too. So it's an energy field. And then the weekend's over and people say, that was fantastic and it's beautiful, this is what I want in my life. Disappear. Because out there, it's also an energy field. The world is an energy field. And that, the part of you that has been in that energy field all your fucking life, excuse me, yeah, is immediately sparked and brought back into that energy field. And that's not just 20, 30, 40, 50 people, that's a few million. And even if it's just the people that you know and meet, that's still a few hundred, you know, during the day, going to work, going to the office, being on the bus, being on the YouTube, on the, you know, wherever you are, you're surrounded by energy. And you have this energy. And so, oh, what was that I went to last week? It was, oh yeah, I remember that group there. Oh, I felt great in there. I felt great there. Well, you know, and you have to look back on it, and it's not with you anymore. You've been taken over by the world. And to avoid that and still maintain your connection is not easy. So I used to feel disappointed when this happened. Now I never do. I think, I mean, the opposition is too strong. You know? You know, the world is bigger than me, so I'm happy if I can make a collection here and there and there. People say, yes, this is so valuable to me that it actually dims the world's pull on me. I still join it, but it dims it so I can keep the flame alive. Passing of the holy flame. It's the flame, to keep the flame alive.
I mean, what you're saying, of course, is very touching, because this community has now continued for something like 15 years. And of course, along the way of those 15 years, there's been immense challenges, difficulties, challenges in a practical sense, challenges in paying the rent, all the functioning things. There's been challenges in dealing with the slightly crazy people that this kind of place attracts. Challenges in many, many challenges. And yours truly sometimes wanted to pack his bag and drive away into the sunset, more than once. But it's completely impossible. It's completely impossible to do that. And recently, again, I was seriously considering, because now I'm quite old, and I was thinking, well, maybe the last bit of my life I can sort of retire and, sit in the sun somewhere. Where would I like to sit? And I couldn't believe it. I can't think anywhere I would like to sit. I can't think of anything else I'd like to do.
Look, you don't belong to yourself anymore, John David. I can see an angel is holding you by your neck. No, not here. Here. Not choking you, just holding you and guiding you. And there's no way, it's no good you trying to talk about retiring or taking it easy and so on. It's too late.
It's too late. I know, it's too late.
You're sunk. Are you saying you're sunk? That means your destiny.
And I accept it because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Because I'm very touched from what's happened in this place that there is a kind of flame. This community is a kind of flame. I don't see it's personal to John David. His flame is one part of the bigger flame. Yeah. But there's a flame, and this is here for any moths passing by at night who want to come and be attracted to the flame, and therefore that's enough reason, and it's your reason also. So I have no suitcase anymore. So guys, we're going to have dinner soon. Would anybody like to ask a question? This is an amazing opportunity. I can only recommend it.
But people are responding in
their own
a
way.
way that I can see.
I know, I can't see
falling
it
into when.
Sometimes,
just a minute. Sometimes I go to a group, and always on Sunday lunchtime, this afternoon is questions and answers. And sometimes I have 80 people in the group and no questions. No questions. Because being in that space, then if I say, write to me on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, I will get a lot of questions. When I get back in the world, then there'll be questions. But in that space, at the end of the group, often there are no questions. Not always. I mean, often I get 2 or 3, 4 questions, but never more than a few. Although they had many questions on a Sunday afternoon at the end of a group, they have vanished. So I can see, when you asked that, anybody got questions, I'm looking around, I can see people, some people are somehow in the space that I engineer in people. resonating. And it's fine, just fine. I have a question. I thought that would happen. If I said no more questions, then somebody would say yes. Caught you.
We have two other communities in the Ukraine and in Spain. And a lot of the time, also my personal experience is that I completely lost the connection and then lost the connection to the space, to John David as a representative of the space. And I just would like to ask whether you have any insights about how to keep the space, like when the person is away very much physically, whether regular Skype meetings where you share the resonance do help, or whether you have some tips just for people who are heavily influenced by other minds and other circumstances, and who just are somewhere where it's just completely different, you can say. Yeah?
Well, the spark that comes through resonance has to take root in you. And then you can maintain it wherever you are. Then it becomes, at first you're dependent on that person who is providing a resonance with him or her, and the flame jumps, you know. But once is not enough, twice is not enough, sometimes 50 times is not enough. As I was talking about the energy field of the world, you know, it has to become not a reflection of another flame, but you have to find that place in you which is in you, which has to become itself a light. And I can see that you have a busy mind, and you're no doubt using your mind maybe to answer your own question and other questions. And you get frustrated because your mind can't give you the answer. And then you get angry because your mind can't give you the answer. And you get disappointed in yourself because you can't provide the answer. And that's all reactions from a place which can't give you the answer. So all your protests and disappointment about not being able to maintain the place is of no use to you whatsoever. In fact, it's making it more and more difficult for you to actually taste the space that's in you anywhere. So the purpose of a teacher is to throw you back on yourself and not to become dependent on the teacher, because it's the mind that says, through my teacher, I can get it for myself. But through your teacher, you cannot get it for yourself. He can help you to get it for yourself, but each person has to get it for themselves. So my teacher, which mainly was Bhagwan Osho, all he did, as far as I'm concerned, was to throw me back on myself and not expect him. You know, when I was in Pune, of course, I was there for on and off for some years, and the numbers grew from, as I said before, a couple of hundred to thousands. And people would say, this is home, this is home. And I would say to my dear friends close to me, For me, it's not home. I'm just passing through. Then I can't make a home with somebody else. And then if that person is not available to me, I have no home. So you have to find, my dear boy, the home in yourself. And not hang on to what's coming to you from outside, but wait until you resonate within with what is being offered to you. So always check what's going on in you, not what's going on outside in somebody else. Then you become dependent. And this is all about becoming independent, ultimately independent. Okay.
Okay, so of course I feel very, very touched, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking at these beautiful paintings that have been collected over many years, and I'm feeling the space, and behind me I sense all these people who are very close to me, and I'm absolutely enjoying every second of what you say, because somehow what's happening in this room this afternoon, it's almost like we prepared this space for a long time, is for an enormous love affair to happen. I can't really remember what you said except for this word resonance, but the love affair, the love affair is so beautiful. I really thank you for creating this beautiful love affair.
Well, I've always been a fan of love affairs.